by Benning. Darnell Nurse left it in the corner, gets left center. Perry scores! Corey Perry!
Lilia able to shake away from Solani. It's given away to Solani around in front. Score! Teemu Solani with the steal.
Three of the fans want one. Score! Off the floor! On the board! Paul Kariya!
Hey everyone, it's the Forever Mighty podcast. It's all three of us today, back for the Saturday show. Quite a bit to talk about. Not a lot of games to talk about, but a lot of Ducks stuff we can kind of go over here. We wanted to bring you guys up to speed on how they're doing. We thought this was a good time, guys, right, to take a look at what Eakins has been able to do versus Randy Carlyle. I think that's what really popped into a lot of people's minds lately, considering the Ducks have been so inconsistent.
You know what just popped into my mind? You said Eakins.
Yeah. Eakins.
Did we not have... I think in the offseason we said there's what was the running total on how many times we were going to mess up his name this year?
I didn't say Eakins. You guys.
I heard Eakins. and I was like, oh, that sounds odd. That's odd.
Oh, I didn't want to say the other. I didn't want to say the other. Yeah, I didn't want to go to Eakins. I didn't want to say that.
All right, so you just made up a new one. Sounds good.
I did.
All right, continue. What are we talking about?
Oh, so Jason's lost. Where do you guys want to start? We've got interesting news with the moves being made. Apparently, Brendan Gooley's not coming back up. Let's go ahead and start there. We got roster moves that have happened. We all know what's been going on with Max Jones. We know that Brendan Gooley, we thought, had re-injured himself, gets moved back down to the minors, plays with the Gulls. And then the Ducks announced, was it today when they said they're bringing up Benoit? Or was it yesterday?
Yeah, today.
So... Why? Why are we not bringing Brendan Gooley back up to play with Cam Fowler? Are you guys just as curious about this as I am? Because I find that very strange with, I don't know, the offense not being able to score goals and Brendan Gooley being a guy who's been able to play very well with Cam Fowler. And for whatever reason, the Ducks management group just seems to think he's not ready.
And maybe he's not, right? Maybe he's not fully healthy yet, that they want to throw him right into the fire against Connor McDavid on Sunday. Yeah, it's a tough call because Josh Mahura just got sent down, and I think he was playing pretty good to that point. And you kind of thought when he got sent down that meant Brendan Gooley was going to come back up, especially because he played in San Diego's last game. But I guess they want to give Simon Benoit a shot, which, I mean, I don't hate. I don't mind, seeing this kid come up and seeing what he can do. It's been a long journey for him to kind of make it to the NHL, so it's nice to see him get a chance. It's just interesting that if Brendan Gooley is 100% healthy, that they went with Simon Benoit. I mean, I guess we'll never know, right? Unless Benoit gets sent back down after Sunday and Gooley comes back up, maybe it was just a precautionary thing. But it's a little bit of an interesting decision.
Yeah, and especially considering too that we had all kind of considered. All right, we at the beginning of the season we had our top four, and that was going to be Fowler with Gooley and Lindholm and Manson. So now with the injuries, everything's kind of shuffled around a little bit. Even Lindholm's been injured. Cam Fowler, oddly enough, is the only one who hasn't been injured. Knock on wood wherever you can. But my guess is same type of deal. It's just that he's maybe not quite fully back from there. It's interesting that he's playing, but can play there but can't play up. So it's a little interesting. I don't know if they like Branson's play a little bit more and they're willing to let Gooley stay down there just a little bit longer. But it's kind of surprising he's not up yet.
What do we see in D pairs then on Sunday?
Oh,
boy. What does that even look like?
I think it's going to be Delzato, Fowler, Lindholm, Branson, and then you're going to see Benoit paired with
Holzer or Larson.
Yeah,
Larson.
It's probably with Larson. That's what I see happening there. Because he's a left shot, no? Or is he right shot? I'm trying to...
I think he's a lefty. I'm 95% sure that he's...
If he's a lefty, I don't even think he gets in a lineup. I think they just bring him in as just...
No, he's going to play on Sunday. He's slated to start against your Pacific Division leading Edmonton effing Oilers.
I'm sorry, say that one more time. I think you misspoke.
Right? Simon Benoit is a left shot, 21 years old.
He's a left shot defenseman. He had a really good rookie face-off. I know that. He was one of the guys that was impressive to management there. So it's not like he's going to be this another Corbinian Holzer or another player that maybe is not reliable. He's only 21 years old, so I think he's got plenty of time to develop into something good. And I know that the club sees him as being a defenseman that could come in and maybe be a 4-5. I mean, he's not a bottom rung defender, and that's what they want him to develop into. So it's going to be interesting to see him come in and play, though, because he's not necessarily, I don't know, an offensive talent, right? He had 51 games for the goals and 12 points. So it's not something that we're looking at like a Josh Mahura or Brendan Gooley, which is what I thought was puzzling to me.
That was last season?
Yeah, last year. He's got 2 points in 9 games this year.
Yeah.
Okay, I was going to ask, was he killing it? So they don't expect him to be offense. They want him to be a 5'6", and they're disappointed with Delzato, Holzer, and Gudbranson being 5'6".
Or Larson, maybe. Realistically, I think it's Larson who probably comes out on Sunday, and Benoit just jumps in.
And they bump up. And then like he jumps into the 3-4 spot, or they like bump up Gudbranson?
I think it's what Pat said. I think it's Lindholm and Gudbranson. I think it's Delzato and Fowler because we've seen them together. And then I think it goes Benoit and Holzer. I think that's what they likely go with for Sunday. And then Larson becomes the seventh man. And then Gooley, if he's not healthy yet, soon probably makes his way back to the lineup.
Yeah, and Eakins, or what'd you call him, Pat? I already forgot.
I don't know.
Okay. But he was also talking about there being a healthy competition for jobs, or playing time. So I think he's willing to bring in somebody else just to kind of throw it in there and just like, listen, guys, we got to be a little bit better on defense, and we got to figure this out. I mean, they gave up 4 goals against Minnesota. And a game that they played pretty well in the beginning and then just kind of fell apart towards the last half of it. So I think they're looking for a little bit more, and no one's job is secure on that defensive side. And nothing's really kind of secure until Josh Manson gets back.
Yeah, which we hope is less than up to 10 weeks is what they were looking at?
It's like 5.
Yeah. Not looking forward to that.
Which is odd because they're like, hey, it's 5 weeks or it's double that. We have no idea.
It's he's maybe hurt. Maybe he's hurt worse. Maybe he's back in 2 months. Maybe he's. We don't really know.
You stay over there, Josh Manson. We don't need you playing right now.
I mean, Benoit's a big kid too. That kind of speaks volumes about why the Ducks want to bring in these big guys. Gudbranson 6'5", Benoit 6'3". So they're bringing in guys that can have a physical presence, and it's obvious he's not here to score goals. He's here to play defense and hopefully try to clean up some of the miscues the Ducks have been having in their own end. And let's see how he plays. I'm kind of excited to see him play his first NHL game tomorrow. It'd be quite the test, which I did not think I'd say against the Edmonton Oilers, who lead the division, which is insane.
I wonder if this is like a shot across the bow of Holzer, because Holzer has looked fairly horrific the last couple of games. A couple of times he's dancing around looking just horrific. So I'm wondering, listen, you're not the only big guy in our system who can maybe kind of push people around in the front. So either shape up or we got somebody else who's going to come in. I think this is more of a shot towards Holzer to clean up his game a little bit or be better than he has been at least.
I would think that's true if Holzer is the one who ends up checking out of the lineup. I think if it's Larson who goes out, I kind of think it's the same message getting sent to Jakob Larson that things haven't been good enough, because he hasn't been great. I think he had his best game when he scored his first NHL goal, and then beyond that, the rest of his play this year has not been amazing. But it's going to be a test, like you said. I think they're going to shelter him away from Connor McDavid. They've got home ice, so they can kind of do that. But yeah. I'm not too optimistic when you look at the 3 pairings that we can roll over the boards, that one of those is, and it's likely going to be Lindholm, who's going to get hard matched against Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. When you look at the other half of that pairing is Erik Gudbranson. That might be a recipe for disaster come Sunday. We'll have to see. But I think if you had to pick a pairing to get put against Connor McDavid, you'd have to pick the one that has Lindholm on it. It just so happens it also has Erik Gudbranson on it, which makes it half good, half bad. So we'll see what happens, but man, I don't know.
How many big hits is Gudbranson going to try to line up and miss tomorrow?
Oh, he better not try and
4 or connect and then be out of position.
Should we make another bet? Plus or minus 4.
How many times? How many times is he going to make a run and miss? So we want to do that.
But that's kind of.
I like the physical play. I like when he levels dudes. It's unfortunate when it turns into a scoring chance.
It's unfortunate that everything else he does is not great. It's not so good.
Wow, Ed, I'm buying you. You're going to have to buy Ed a Branson jersey.
He was brought in for a specific reason. That's to be a big guy and a 5'6", and I think he's doing that job. He's being forced into a 4 situation, which is not necessarily a strong suit, but I don't think he's necessarily dropped the ball in that respect. Playing against the top team in the Pacific Division tomorrow is going to be a little interesting for him.
So the 3 pairs that have had the most usage this season, and we know there's injuries to Josh Manson now, and we know that Brendan Gooley's been up and down, Mahura's been up and down, but
Lindholm's been out.
Well, Lindholm, Manson have played 147 minutes this season, 11 games. Jacob Larson and Corbinian Holzer have played 161 minutes together over 13 games, and Del Zotto and Cam Fowler 130 minutes. Can you guess who was the worst?
Del Zotto.
Jacob Larson and Corbinian Holzer are easily buried every single game.
It's easy.
So maybe it is what Jason's saying is a shot across the bow of Holzer. But I got to ask you guys.
Wait, what about Lindholm and Goodbranson?
Let's see what they've done here. I'm pulling this up for you.
I'm sure it's not
getting it from natural stat trick.
It's been a total of 15 minutes, and they are killing it.
I'm sure it's not too great. They have to be up there in usage, though. They've been together for the last 4 games.
I don't see them together. Hold on.
We'll play the.
Maybe natural stat.
I got it. 62 minutes of Lindholm and Goodbranson together this season.
Full game.
Corsi for percentage of 45.83. Still not as bad as Larson and Holzer, who had 42.57.
What's the expected goals?
Expected goals on Eric Goodbranson and Hampus Lindholm is 40.32%. Not good.
Not good. That is not good.
Yeah, but those guys are designed for shutdown. They're not designed to push the play the other way.
But the expectation should be out of your zone. The puck should be out of your zone.
Exactly. Their expected goals against is not too wonderful.
So when they're on the ice, it's expected that the Ducks have a 40-60 chance of scoring. So they're below.
Or a 60-40 chance of getting scored against.
Right.
Real quick, is everyone just absolutely in love with Lindholm's game this season so far?
No, but he's also been paired with Eric Goodbranson. And who was he paired with originally?
Manson was pretty bad this season too. So
and when he was with Josh Manson, there was injuries to Brendan Gooley and among others, and literally Josh Manson and Hampus Lindholm were thrown out at any defensive face-off, any hard match against any team's top line. And we mentioned this. We talked about this on a couple post-game shows on how that is going to wear on them over the beginning part of the season when they literally have to play every hard minute in every game because they're not going to throw Larson and Holzer out against opposing team's top line. And when you're on home ice, that's the matchup we've seen Dallas Eakins go back to when they were together is if you got a chance to throw them out there against whether it's Connor McDavid or Sidney Crosby or Nathan McKinnon or whoever, Lindholm and Manson were out there.
Yep. That's by design, especially because when Fowler and Gooley were paired together, they wanted to give them the chance to be offensive, so they would put Lindholm out there every hard matchup that was up. Let's move on here. Let's talk about the Ducks. So Ed, you put together this pretty cool little idea. You were like, at first I was like, let's do the Ducks' first 17 games versus Carlyle's first 17 games. You're like, no, let's do the Ducks' last 17 under Randy Carlyle and the Ducks' first 17 under Dallas Eakins. So kind of see how that works here. So Ed, how pretty is it? Is it very pretty?
Fully expected. I fully expected Randy Carlyle's last 17 to be horrible because just remembering back to last year and obviously he got fired, right? So there was
it's
no
usually
way.
A good indicator.
Yeah, there was no way it was going to be good. Last 17 games for Randy Carlyle, Ducks went 2-11-4.
I remember all those post games; they were great.
Yeah, they were wonderful.
Repetitive.
Corsi for percentage of 48.66. It's not great, but it's not horrible. They've been worse at times. They've been worse this year. 451 shots against across 17 games. I'm interested if you throw that up in a calculator to see what that is per game, but I can imagine it's pretty high. 432 scoring chances against, 50 goals against across 17 games. So right there, you're averaging basically 3 goals against per game, which is reminiscent if we look back to February and January of the Ducks season last year. That's right around when we got the news that John Gibson was fatigued. And that kind of makes sense. And you look at their save percentage at that time, too. It was second last at .889. And their shooting percentage was dead last in the league, which was a trend we saw last year at 5.71. So this was a Ducks team who could not score. And at this point of the season, they had that, 12-game losing streak because the goaltending kind of just bottomed out because they were allowing 35 to 40 shots per game. So that's the team we all remember. If we look at that and compare it to Dallas Eakins through the first 17 this year, the Ducks are 9-7-1, which I guess is kind of right where we expected them to be. Right?
Yep.
We didn't.
For me, anyway. Yep.
Oh, Jason's shaking his head.
No, I'm shaking the head. You guys were had them down in the dumps. They weren't going to do anything. They might meddle around in the middle of the pack in the Pacific Division.
This is a middle. They are middle of the pack.
Ooh, now with a 9-7-1, I easily would have imagined you guys are. As I recall, you guys were saying 500 or lower, not above.
This is about 500.
Basically 500.
That's two games above 500.
Essentially, they're 9-8. They lost one in overtime.
Exactly.
I just remember you guys saying these guys aren't. They're not going to make a division spot. They're not going to be there. No.
All right. First 17 games continuing under Dallas Eakins. 421 shots against. That's the 6th most in the league over this point, which is, I think, a fair amount of those have come in the last 5 games for the Ducks, especially that game against Vegas, which is only, 30 less than Randy Carlyle in his last 17. Goals against, though, 28. That's actually 7th best in the league right now. And you want to know the reason why? The Ducks have a .934 save percentage over the first 17 games. This is all 5-on-5, by the way. So this is both are comparing 5-on-5. So the Ducks goaltending once again has been outstanding. That it was at the beginning of last year for Randy Carlyle as well. Scoring chances against, this is a little bit different here. The Ducks are giving up a lot of shots, but the scoring chances are way down in comparison to Randy Carlyle. So just
almost
remembering
by 100.
back. Yeah, it's just Randy Carlyle had 451 shots against, 432 scoring chances against, compared to Dallas Eakins' team this year having 421 shots against and only 349 scoring chances. So the Ducks have cleaned things up, I think, defensively. They're still giving up a lot of shots, but more of those are coming from the perimeter rather than the enormous amount of slot shots the Ducks were giving up last year. So bit of a trend you can see there is, at least defensively, the Ducks have gotten slightly better at pushing teams to the outside and eliminating chances. You can kind of see that in the high danger chances against, too. Ducks right now this year have 130. In the last 17 under Randy Carlyle, they had 195. So the defense has gotten a little bit better despite all the injuries that they've had this year. And then the shooting percentage has gone up 4 points from dead last.
That's a lot. That's massive.
From dead last at 5.71 over Randy Carlyle's last 17 to 9.07, which I think is top 10 right now in the league, but that's right around league average, a 9% shooting percentage. And whether that's just luck turning around for the Ducks or them playing a little bit more creatively, that's why the goals have come, but not at an elite rate. So things are better. They're not perfect, but that's why I guess you can see the record has turned around from 2-11-4 to 9-7-1.
So what do we make of this based on the lack of scoring? Like, how do you guys feel about this team when you watch these games? To me, it's obviously way more enjoyable than watching anything under Randy Carlyle. That's first and foremost. I don't want this to be anything taken as negative towards Dallas Eakins, but it seems very inconsistent, right? We have really, really fun games. Ducks score a bunch of goals, or they're really highly competitive, and then we go a game or two later, and it's just like, wow, can't get anything started. They can't make a pass for the neutral zone. It just feels like they're not able to move things consistently. Do you guys feel like that's a personnel issue or a bunch of young kids in the lineup? How do you guys feel this team?
It's going to be a little bit of a combination, I guess. The thing is, the Ducks are competitive within a game at some point. I'll maybe take that away in the Vegas game. They didn't seem competitive at any point in that game. Take that game away, and even in the Boston game when they got shelled by Pasta. I mean, other than that, there are times within the game that they are competitive, they can drive, and I can't say that last season. I can't remember where we had a good period where we outplayed somebody. If it was few and far in between. At least with here, this season, every game, there's at least a period, there's a moment, there's some significant time where we're actually dictating play, which makes it more enjoyable to watch and is also kind of contributing to the fact that our goalies aren't having to consistently be on edge, try and make stops. The save percentages start going up. The shots against start going down a little bit. I think they're doing better defending, and they are more creative offensively. It's going to be a little inconsistent because we are asking a lot of young players to help drive the play a little bit, and we are moving guys in and out of the lineup, which creates a little bit of chemistry issue. So eventually things hopefully solidify. We're talking about a month and a half into this season, and with a new coach, new style, everyone's kind of figuring it out. I am happy with the way the veterans are playing. Specifically, Raquel has looked great with Silverberg, and even Getzlaf is scoring goals, taking shots, looking good, and the defense is jumping in like I've never seen them do before. And I think eventually things will start kind of solidifying, and hopefully we start putting together complete or semi-complete games instead of having a bad first.
I mean,
or a bad
the broadcast love saying that. You see the defense. Do you see how Delzato's below the goal line of the offense?
The Bruns is below the goal line. Yeah. I mean, it's just something to keep the puck in a little bit. Whereas before, it's like, hey, dump it, change. Let's all just get better on defense and hope they don't score after their 80th shot. I mean, it's ridiculous how it was versus what it is now. It's so much better.
We can all see these changes, though, right? Like you can see it when you go and check the eye test and see that they obviously are playing better than they were last year, and it's more high event this year, which I think, the stats we just went over kind of portray that, right? They're still giving up a lot of shots against. Their defense is shored up because of the system that Dallas Eakins has put in place, and I guess maybe not the system he's put in place, but just the system he's kind of replaced that Randy Carlyle had from last year. That's why, if we go to chances for, their chances for are up from last year. Their expected goals is up from last year. So, and I guess the shooting percentage, that can be contributed a little bit to luck as well. But generally, they've gotten better in some areas, but there are still some that's the same, and a lot of that's personnel, right? They're still going to give up a lot of shots against. A lot of that is on the personnel we have on this team. And the goaltending this year has kind of mitigated that, and the fact that they're limiting the amount of scoring chances that John Gibson and Ryan Miller are facing. So there are improvements. That's shown with the record, the fact they kind of are where we thought they were. But there are still some concerns, like giving up the 6 most shots in the league over the first 17 games isn't ideal. And, a lot of that is chalked up to goaltending. Normally, if you give up the 6 most shots, you don't expect to be the 7th best team when it comes to defense and giving up, only 28 goals over that span. So is that sustainable for the whole year? We'll have to wait and see. We posed that same question at the beginning of last year.
Isn't the most concerning thing with this team right now the offense? I feel like Gibby and Miller can really hold down the fort, but if Jakob Silverberg stops shooting at 20% and Adam Henrique stops shooting at 21%, we're going to see a steep drop off here in offense. It's a problem. Andre Kasha's got 1 goal this season, guys. The kids haven't been able to put together enough points to really make us go, wow, we were all excited about these kids, and we still should be. We're 17 games in. But we're going to get to a point here very quickly where we see this offense is going to either drop or they're going to start to come together, because historically Jakob Silverberg and Adam Henrique don't shoot like that. Doubling their current, for Silverberg, doubling his shooting percentage is insane. That's not sustainable, I don't think. And Henrique doesn't shoot like that either. So we need the other guys to start being able to pick it up. That's what we really have to look at this team and wonder where the offense is.
I'll combat you just a little bit on that. I said it in a really weird way, combat you.
Yeah, you went very southern.
Very southern for some weird reason.
Some highfalutin argument you got going there.
Right? But finally, Silverberg isn't asked to play defense. He's finally been opened up to just play offense, and he gets a chance to play with Raquel.
And he's still defensively responsible too. Sure.
And he is, but he's been given the reins to try and create offense. And I think this is one of the things I expected him to start doing this season, where I thought he could be closer to a 30-goal scorer producer. 20%, that's insane. That's not sustainable, but sometimes it is within a season. And that might happen. Henrique, kind of same thing. I think, they've almost asked Sam Steele to kind of jump in certain areas, and now you got Henrique possibly playing third center, and that might open him up a little bit more for that offensive side. Right now he's doing the, what's the baseball term where they win a lot? Cy Young. So
He's got 8 goals to assist.
So he's got
right?
that. But I think the key will come down to eventually the Ducks power play. They've got to start.
That's where I was
that.
moving to next, my friend.
Yeah, so I figure if they start getting that power play clicking, think at how many games. I mean, we're 9-7-1 right now. Think at how many games we don't lose and we win because the power play clicks just a little bit more consistently. Now it was a 1 win, 2 wins. Now we're looking at an 11-5-1 Ducks team versus what we are right now. I mean, it's that close because we don't lose games usually by a lot, and our goaltending usually keeps us in within 1 goal. They give up 2 goals maybe. On odd occasions it's 3 or more. So 1 power play goal goes a long way for this team. That's where I think their biggest improvement can be. If they can do that and everything else stays the same, things start going a lot better, I think.
I mean, the best player has been Ryan Getzlaf on the power play. He has 2 of the 4 goals of the power play. He's had 4 game-winning goals this season. I feel like he's been one of the best players on this team, period, offensively. We need guys like Andre Kasha to wake up. We need guys like Ricard Raquel to wake up.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
Raquel
Andre
is
Kasha's
on pace for like 20 goals this season.
Andre Kasha's shooting percentage is 4%. So in the same argument of Adam Henrique being unsustainable at 26% right now, there's no way Andre Kasha's shooting percentage of 4%.
Don't take a headshot, my friend. Just stay healthy for the love of God. Please stay healthy.
There's no way that stays the same for Andre Kasha over the entire season too, and the same
Probably
for Nick
not.
Ritchie, Nick Ritchie's hovering around, I believe, the same low shooting percentage on the year as well. Nick Ritchie's at 6.9%, and Ricard Raquel's at 7.84%. Troy Terry's at 9%. Like, likely those will increase to league average, especially for Ricard Raquel and Andre Kasha, who are 2 of the best goal scorers on this team. So even if Silfverberg and Henrique come back down to earth, you'd have to expect that at some point in the same trend that Ricard Raquel and Andre Kasha and Nick Ritchie will boost their shooting percentage back up to league average, at least you would hope, and that should offset it. So I think the Ducks kind of are where they are at in terms of goal scoring this year. Even if some guys regress back to the mean, then you'll get other guys who kind of progress forward a bit.
Well, let's talk about the power play then. We've talked about this a lot, bringing in Taylor Hall, bringing in Ristolainen into, quarterback a power play, bringing in outside help. Do you guys feel like it's an internal issue that can be fixed? Like our good friends over at waveintel.org, Jason Paul is someone that we follow on Twitter. He also follows us. He's the creator of the Versus tool over on this website. He's shared lots of things with us, but they have a tool on there, True Power Play Rank and PK Rank, and they have this little diagram which they put things into low risk, high reward, high risk, high reward, high risk, low reward, and then low risk, low reward. Can you guess which square the Ducks are in, and they're almost at the bottom of it?
On the
Low
power
risk,
play.
low reward.
Yeah, low risk, low reward.
Yeah.
It is absolutely terrifying to know that this team just can't figure it out right now, and it's we hope more than likely going to change, right? And that's something we really hope that happens here.
They have the
because
personnel to make
pretty
that
bad.
it should be better.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's not really a personnel issue, or it's not really like adding a personnel that's going to change it. I think they can fix it internally, as you were trying to say.
I mean, they're 4 for 42, right? That's what you've got to put here. They're third last in shots on the power play. That more so seems like a systems issue. And the only 2 teams below them are Chicago and then the Islanders. And the Islanders you can't really even count because they've had like 25 less power play minutes than any other team. They're just not getting penalty calls this year. So realistically, the Ducks are the second worst team in the league when it comes to shots on the power play. And if you took it to per game, they might even be worse than the Chicago Blackhawks. That is, to me, screaming as a systems issue in the sense that these guys aren't shooting on the power play. We can see that. They're looking for the pretty pass. There's improvements this year. We're seeing cross-crease passes. The Ducks have gotten robbed a couple times on the power play. They probably should have 6, 7, 8 power play goals on the season. But you can't really dwell on that now when you look at the fact, they're 4 for 42. It's not great. And I think they need to change.
Sorry, Ed. Go ahead. I thought you were going to pause and cut out.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, Jason, you remember as us old school Ducks fans, Frederick Olofsson? The Ducks owned the backdoor play on the power play. Olofsson would skate all the way down, park his ass on the crease. Just tee him up off the side of the crease.
Let's go
just
for
all
that.
day.
Let's anything right now. Any
all right, so let's sign Frederick Olofsson. That's Pat's. That's Pat's.
Let's go get
fix.
let's get Victor Olofsson. He scores power play goals for fun in Buffalo.
That's
He's got
all he
30 power play
did
goals.
at the beginning of the season.
His first
How many?
10
I don't
goals
think
of his career were power play goals.
Yeah, I think he's got 6 goals this season, all power play, I believe. I don't think he has a 5-on-5 goal.
I think he got one today. He scored
Oh,
today.
he's got 7. There you go.
No, he might
Did
have
he?
been a power play goal today. Let's check.
I know he had 6
4 last year and 6 this year, and they were all
this year.
power play goals.
That's the last I saw as of yesterday. He had 6 goals,
First,
and that was early on.
yeah,
Yeah,
no,
7
he scored
goals,
today
5
at
assists.
5-on-5. So
Oh
his
my
first
God,
5-on-5
hell
goal
freezes
was
over.
today.
All right, I'll call it Frederick Olofsson because, yeah.
But speaking of a power
Olofsson,
play, right? Like one of the best power plays in the league, the Buffalo Sabres have. We mentioned it when we talked about power play before, and you know their talent is maybe I guess you could say it's a little bit better than what the Ducks have, but it's not much. Like Jack Eichel is their go-to guy. Victor Olofsson, you could argue the Ducks have a player of that ability in their lineup. Victor Olofsson is not an elite player in this league yet, or at least not an established elite player.
That's an Andre Kasha, right?
Right, he's a great shooter. He's a great shooter. Yes, and it helps that he's a left shot because it works well on that power play. And the Ducks, arguably don't have that type of shooter as a left shot. But Rasmus Dahlin, Cam Fowler could probably not maybe do the same job, but that type of job as just a lone defenseman on a power play, or maybe Hampus Lindholm could do that as well. And then you've got Ryan Getzlaf where Jack Eichel would be, and then you throw some bodies in where Jeff Skinner and Sam Reinhart are on that power play for Buffalo, and that could be Rickard Rakell or Adam Henrique. Like the Ducks have the same type of talent. The setup just isn't there. They seem lost when they go on the power play. It's a different approach each time they go there. They're trying to make things happen. There's no structure to what they're doing on the power play.
It's brutal. Too many passes.
I feel like, if you look at what the Ducks, quote unquote, tried to do, I don't know how much they tried last season on the power play. They were horrific. They couldn't enter the zone, let alone try and get set up and try and make anything happen. The Ducks struggled a little bit this year. New personnel, new look at what they were trying to do on the power play. I think they went the first 9 games of the season and didn't get a power play goal. It wasn't until they got one, and now they've got 4 in maybe their last 25 attempts. So it's gotten better. It's not great. As far as the difference where it looks different every time, I think that's a difference between either power play unit. When Getzlaf's out there and Sam Steele's with them, that's a completely different looking setup than it is when you start putting in your Kashas, your Silverberg, your Rakell on the other line. It's weird because you'd almost consider Ryan Getzlaf to be a number 1, but that's kind of their number 2. And that team, that unit seems, in my opinion, a lot more capable of scoring goals. They're a little off, and it's a new setup and a new trying to move things around. So I'm willing to give them a little bit more time. And I think you saw it in the first 9 games where nothing happened, where now things are kind of getting there. The chances are there, and they're just not quite clicking yet. So once again, I'm not willing to call it just horrific or trash. I just think it's a work in progress. And eventually it'll probably click. I'm hopeful.
You guys want to talk about the upcoming games here? That's what I kind of... We used to do this on Puck Guys. We'd talk about the upcoming game and make picks. How do you think the guys fare against the Edmonton Oilers tomorrow? Because are the Oilers really the real deal, or are they just really good with McDavid on the ice? Because that's kind of the feeling I got.
Can I say both? I think they're a little bit of both, honestly. They're not much different than they are last year, but they do seem to have a little bit more depth than last year, and that's simply the fact that James Neal is playing well this year and still continuing to play well. Not maybe as hot as he was to start the season.
Apparently didn't like Calgary.
Yeah.
Edmonton like Lucic, so
it's not too much different. But talk about Adam Henrique going for the Cy Young. James Neal has 12 goals and 2 assists on the year, so he's the leading candidate for that. But the offense still runs through Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, and Leon Draisaitl has actually been the better player this year, I think, than in comparison to Connor McDavid, which is saying something about how he's kind of stepped up his play. They're a team that will continue to win games because of those two, and it's similar to Boston, how it's almost impossible to shut those guys down. Boston doesn't have a ton of depth after Bergeron, Marchand, and Pasternak, but it's so hard to shut those guys down that it doesn't matter on some nights as well. I think in the same sense, the goaltending for Edmonton's going to be a problem this year at times. Mike Smith is always been streaky, and same goes for Koskinen.
And he's not posting a 926 this season.
Yeah,
That's
and
what he's got right now.
Their defense is suspect. So I think they're for real in the sense that they're like a Boston light in the sense that line will carry them through games, but the goaltending and the defense won't be consistently good enough all season to keep them first in the Pacific. Can they squeak into a playoff spot? Sure. I was surprised last year they had 200-plus point guys and missed the playoffs. That doesn't happen that often. So Connor McDavid and Draisaitl are on pace to do that again, and I don't think you can miss the playoffs back-to-back while that happens, especially where San Jose is right now and where the Ducks are. The Flames have kind of crept back into it, but they've got such a hot start on some of those teams that I can't see them falling that far.
I would venture the other way. Not that they're going to fall off the face of the earth, because it's hard to do that when you're talking about a Draisaitl and a McJesus. But the other thing is where Ryan Nugent Hawkins is. That dude has completely underperformed this entire season. The only reason I know that is he's on my fantasy team, and I'm this close to dropping his ass. He needs to really pick it up.
He's got 11 points in 18 games. That's not, that's not last year, but that's not horrible.
Yeah, but I mean, right now they're off to a great start, and I think James Neal is kind of helping that, and then, Mike Smith doing Mike Smith streaky things where he's good enough to help win it. I don't know if you can juggle that many great things at certain times to make it continue to go. They're benefiting the fact that they're in the Pacific Division and San Jose is plummeted to the bottom, and that Calgary is not exactly where they were last year. You still have your Vegas. So they'll be meddling around. They've done a great job of getting a giant lead. It just, can they hold it as all the other teams start getting their crap together and start kind of closing in on them? So it depends how big of a lead they get. Against the Ducks, I guess, is the main question. What can the Ducks do against them? It'll be a good test.
If you can.
Yeah. I mean, hey, be the first team this season to do it, I guess. But they'll give up some goals. They're going to have to hold on to, Gibby really kind of playing out of his mind like he usually does. And at least with the Ducks, they're on a homestand and they've got a long break. I mean, we did a podcast on Wednesday. They're not playing until Sunday. I mean, at this point, they've got enough time to maybe prepare for them, see what they've been doing, and hopefully be good out of the gate, because the Ducks' biggest problem is their start. Usually that first period's a little bit where they can get buried, so hopefully that doesn't happen.
I mean, Edmonton Oilers are... Ooh.
Blessing or curse in having 5 days off against... not maybe a speedy team, but one of the fastest players in the league, like Connor McDavid. When's Edmonton's? Does Edmonton play tonight? Or I think they
Edmonton
yesterday.
Won their last game.
So Edmonton played yesterday against the Devils.
They won 4-0.
1 day of rest, and where you said the Ducks have 5 days of rest. That can be a blessing. But
1 day of rest, but they got to travel, and travel's it's really annoying.
I can see it. I can see it going both ways. I can see it going both ways. Whether it affects the Ducks in a positive or negative way, having 5 days of rest. Either way, it's very, very difficult to stop Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, especially this year. And you look at the injuries the Ducks have on defense. Who's going to be matched up against them? Likely Hampus Lindholm and Eric Goodbranson. And that doesn't look like it pans out as being a good thing for the Ducks going into Sunday's game. But you can't just, as good as they are, you can't just focus on Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid, because that's where teams like Boston hurt you. When you're focused on that top line and you get other guys contributing, James Neal and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and Zach Kassian, there's still guys who can hurt you if you forget about them. And the Ducks have to be wary about that in going into this game.
All right, go ahead.
Real quick, I'm sorry. I'm just more worried about the Ducks even focusing on Connor McJesus, because if they focused on Pasternak when they played Boston, they did a horrible job of focusing. They need glasses. So
they played a great game that game too.
Yeah, all four. So if the Ducks are focusing on the main guys, they're not doing a very good job. So focus on those little guys, I guess.
Who's winning tomorrow? Don't need to give a reason. Just give an answer.
Flipping the coin here. Oh, landed on Ducks.
I'm gonna say.
I really don't.
You're that split
I'm
on
gonna
it, Jay?
I'm gonna say it's going to overtime, but I think the Oilers scrape it out in overtime. I think the Ducks pick up a point though.
I
just
think
can't
that Mike
see him.
Smith turns into the Mike Smith we love to see,
I think
and
Koskinen's
in his
starting,
Calgary days, and he gets mowed
I
tomorrow.
think it's
He's going to get
Koskinen.
smoked tomorrow. You
Koskinen
think it's
plays?
Koskinen?
Yeah, I think it's Koskinen tomorrow. That's going. That's right now. It says Koskinen's probable.
Then all right, then I'm 51% Ducks.
I think the Ducks are going to pull the one out tomorrow. They're going
It'll be
to pull
close.
out. They've got time to heal. And I think that's important for the two. They're a bit banged up, so I think that tomorrow will be a win.
Maybe disappointed that they lost the 1,000th game for Getzlaf when they were up 2-0 against Minnesota against
That's already in the
Bruce
mirror.
Boudreau. Yeah.
All right, we don't want to spend a lot of time on the Red Wings. They're garbage. They're tied for last in the league with several teams. The Ducks beat the Wings or not beat the Wings?
Yeah,
They beat them.
they beat them. The Wings
They beat
are,
them.
I think,
That's
in my
the-
opinion, easily the worst team in the league right now, which is surprising when you would have expected that to be, the Ottawa Senators in all cases. But dead last in goals per game, second last in goals against per game, worst penalty kill in the league, power plays, not much better than that. And they're we talked about one-line teams and teams being able to fight through that and be good, Boston and Edmonton. They're a one-line team that is terrible. And that one line is great in Larkin, Mantha, and Bertuzzi, but they're not at that same level where you can if it's that difficult to shut them down. They're still very good, but the depth behind that is nothing. There's literally nothing behind that line. Andreas Athanasiou has started to play a little bit better, which has kind of helped them out. But the next leading point getter of that is defenseman and Filip Hronek. And then it's Valtteri Filppula with 7 points in 18 games. That's their
Awful.
That's their depth after those guys. You've got a ton of guys with no goals. Like Abdelkader has 3 assists, 0 goals.
Mike Green's crap.
Yeah, Mike Green's crap. They just brought in Robbie Fabry, which might be a boost for them. He scored 2 goals in his debut for the Red Wings. But a ton of guys. Like Franz Nielsen is pointless in 14 games. They picked up Perlini. He has 0 points in the 6 games he's played this year. So it should be a win. But it's one of those games that we've talked about before. I think the last time the Ducks played the Red Wings, and last year when Fowler gifted that goal to Dylan Larkin in front of the net, that was supposed to be a must-win for the Ducks last year when the Red Wings were bad. So it's one of those teams that, yeah, they're horrible, but they still have that one line can kill you. And
the Ducks already beat them this season, though, in Detroit. So I think that...
And that was back when Detroit was
should be a win.
Considered good. Yeah, Stevie Y's got a lot of work ahead of him to make Tampa Bay too.
Handcuffed hard. That lineup and those contracts that he was given.
You guys, he gave Valtteri Filppula a no movement clause. Okay, let's not forget. Yes, he did.
Well, he loved him.
You mean
Tampa.
he gave that in Tampa, right?
Doesn't he play in Detroit?
He does, but did they just sign?
He
Filppula
gave it
a
to
new
him in
contract?
Detroit. Yes. Yep. He sure did.
It is what it is.
That happens. Let's get to Jason. You want to do your fun little game now or after the fan questions? We got to get to fan questions because you dorks skipped it last week.
Okay, yeah.
We also went an hour and a half last week, and you weren't
You
there.
did.
Yeah. All right, let's do fan questions. Let's do that first, and then my silly little game that no one really cares about.
I do. I care about
I
it.
know. Oh, thanks.
So I want to address something really quick here. Canadian girl on Instagram says, "You guys going to have Ryan Getzlaf on the show? Would love to. If anyone knows him, hit us up. We would love to get that."
Let's see. Chip knows him. So
You should hit up Chip. Maybe Chip can swing a favor to us. So we have a question here from Vic Cab 97. Says, why is this Anaheim team so inconsistent? They score a lot, then struggle to score. Kind of like what we talked about here earlier. I think we kind of attributed that to growing pains, right? New system, new coaches, new line mates, growing pains, young kids in the lineup. I think that's kind of what we kind of looked at here.
Yeah, my thought is that this team they're going to have their struggles. They're also going to have their successes. And it's going to be a new coach, a new system, new personnel. Everything's going to just take time. It's going to click at some points, and then it's just you're wondering why it's not doing what it was. So you just be patient. You wait. We're a month and a half into the season. This is not DEFCON 5 where we got to just dump everything, move on, just rebuild. We're in a good spot in a weak division where we can actually possibly make the playoffs at this point, maybe even a division spot. Let's just keep it going, see if we can start solidifying the things that we're working on and we're building forward to. So it's going to be inconsistent, but just hang with it. It'll get better.
I think it's more what we're going to see for most of the season. They're a high-event hockey team, and we're going to have games like this where they break through and score a bunch of goals, and there's going to be games where that just doesn't fly for them, or they go against another high-event hockey team, and it becomes a shootout. I just think that's what's going to happen for most of the season. I don't think there's going to be a stability point where they hit it, and they become a team who can either score 3 goals per game or 2.5 goals per game, and that just becomes a consistent basis. Maybe we hit that for a 10-game stretch, but I think eventually we kind of just keep falling back into that inconsistency where some games they score 5 or 6 and some games they struggle to score 1 or 2. I honestly just think with the system that we have in place this year and the talent on the roster, that's just going to be the type of team they are this year. That's not necessarily bad, and that's an improvement in total overall goals from last year. But I honestly feel like this is not a trend that is going to end anytime soon.
So another question here from David Roska. He says, I don't know how I should take this question because you put Ducks will fix their defense with Goodbranson. I wonder if you put will the Ducks. I'm just going to go with Ducks will fix. Do you guys think that Goodbranson is the answer? I know I'll leave that to answer.
What?
If you miswrote that, write it back in the way you wanted to put that. But if you actually think the branch is the answer, I don't think any of us feel like that's the answer.
No, I mean, if the answer is, hey, we just lost Josh Manson, can we get anybody who's going to be as physical and semi-close to his ability? I would probably say Branson was probably about the only person that could have probably filled that role that was available for us. So in that respect, I would say, yeah, kind of. But at the same thing, Goodbranson's filling a hole. There will be more of these injuries, unfortunately, at some point. And I really think Goodbranson, Holzer, and those guys are there for when the playoffs, if we get to the playoffs, happen, where we need physicality in front of the net. Because we don't have that without those guys. All we have is Josh Manson. And really, you're asking him to shut down. He can't be out there every shift. So you're going to have somebody else who's going to move people away from Gibson when we get to playoff time, if that's it. So, I mean, it's more of a setup for if we get to the playoffs and we're building that depth physically because we don't have a lot of physical guys coming up through the system.
Well, we got several questions here.
Well, Eddie needed to answer.
Did you want to chime in on that?
You shut him down.
Well, he was very quiet for a long time.
That depends on the question you're trying to answer in terms of Eric Goodbranson. If the question is, can the Ducks put themselves in more of a cap bind while bringing in a player who they arguably already had in their system, then sure, Eric Goodbranson is the answer to that question. If the question is he going to make this defense better despite Josh Manson being injured, I think the answer to that is no. He hasn't done anything. He's arguably been worse than what the Ducks already had coming in. He provides some stability in the sense that they bring in another right shot that they maybe didn't have to begin with, but you could argue that Yanni Hakanpää or Chris Weidman or Hunter Drew could come up and provide the same type of impact that Eric Goodbranson has so far, which is minimal. Again, he brings his size and his physicality, and that's it. And I think you could get that out of some of the guys that we have. Yanni Hakanpää is not a small guy, and Hunter Drew is a physical player. You probably could have got that from them, and now you've brought in a guy at over just at $4 million for this year and next year. And next year, like we said, Corey Perry's buyout goes up from $2 to $6 million. So you've kind of restricted yourself. And it's not like the Ducks have to sign anybody, but why do that at all?
All right, so we have a few questions, or a few people with the same question here, so I'm just going to read the question. Now, with Manson out, do you guys think Murray makes a move beyond Goodbranson to bring in Ristolainen or another scorer, even at forward with like Taylor Hall? I'm not really sure that's going to happen at all. I don't see it happening this season, really.
I don't see it happening.
I mean, you guys talked about it a little bit on the last show. Like, I think Jason said, the Ducks tried to get Shattenkirk. The Ducks tried to get Falk. they ended up with Goodbranson. It's just
They apparently tried to get
went to try to
Ristolainen
fix
too,
it.
and the price was just too high.
So they had tried to do these things, weren't able to, and then you guys kind of covered that last Wednesday.
Yeah, and that's it. I don't see them, and quite honestly, I mean, the news of Manson coming out with his injury and the scope of his injury, I don't think it moves one way or the other. I think the Branson's the slap the duct tape on the hole in the bottom of the ship
Oh, my
as we're
favorite
leaking.
meme.
It's just like slap it on there. It's just like, your
Flex tape?
seal flex.
Yeah.
You slap it in there, and all of a sudden, all right, there it worked enough until like the main guy comes back, because I think that's what they're going to do, because it's not surgery required for Manson. That means we're not talking about multiple months. When your ligaments, you're looking 3-6 months. It could be even longer, just depending on the rehab of it. So we're talking about a little over a month to maybe 2.5 months. If you can find something to just hold the fort until that dude comes back, that's what they did with Branson. They struck out with Shattenkirk. They struck out with Falk. Other than that, unless the price drop is huge, it's really tough for the Ducks to do anything to bring anybody in. And they're not even, in my opinion, 100% convinced that this team is Stanley Cup worthy. Yeah, they'll get to the playoffs and maybe they make some noise, but they're not going to start mortgaging the future or doing anything else that's going to bring in that elite player that's really going to make the difference, because I don't think management feels this season is a team that's going to go deep in the playoffs. They just wanted to get to the playoffs.
Have you guys seen the alternate version of that meme? The flex tape meme, where he puts the tape on and then the water
And the
still
water
comes
keeps
through
coming
a
out?
hole in his hand?
Yeah.
That's Eric
Yep.
Branson.
So there's your answer. Jason, I want to direct this question mostly towards you because you're the resident goalie. But Mike Grace has come on and said he wants us to answer. Do you think something's up with John Gibson? He's not doing so hot right now. Is that something you think is on John Gibson or the team's play in whole?
We lost Jason. What was the question? We lost
I
Jason.
can take it. Do you think John Gibson's going through a hard time right now? Do you feel like that something's up with him? I mean, his last 5 games, he's 2-3. I mean, the team as a whole is. But in 3 of those games, I think he faced over 40 shots. So that's not on him. But he hasn't been like the superhero quality that we're used to seeing, right?
Yeah, I think, the Vegas game, despite giving up 5 goals, I thought he played pretty well. He made 44 saves in that one, and that took a huge hit to his numbers. He ended up finishing sub 900 save percentage on that night, and that takes a hit to your goals against average too. And then against Winnipeg, I think when we discussed that game in the post game, I think there was a couple goals he probably would have wanted back in that game, but I believe that's also the one where Brian Little took a shot and deflected off Mahura's stick. And some people got on him, but that being one he probably should have gotten back, but it dipped so much he really couldn't go after that. And he faced 40 shots in that one. And that's always tough, too, and that takes a hit on your numbers. And then you go against Vancouver, where he faces 40 shots again, but he has an excellent game. He makes 39 saves. The Ducks win that game. And then against Minnesota, it was kind of an iffy game. I think that was maybe the only game where he didn't really stand on his head. So 3 of those 4 games, he played really well, and in 2 of them, he just got unlucky that the defense in front of him just wasn't really that great. And it's a little bit reminiscent from last year. So I don't think John Gibson's lost anything. I just think the play in a couple of those games by the defense just was not up to par. And that's... Yeah, it's been tough. Well, look who's in front of him, right? Like, it's Delzato, Holzer, Larson, now Simon Benoit. No consistency in any of the pairings whatsoever because guys have been hurt. So it's tough especially when you lose that top pairing who's supposed to be the go-to for you in Lindholm and Manson, and then you lose the second pairing in Gooley and Fowler that is supposed to be that kind of secondary stopgap option. You haven't really had them together except for maybe 1 or 2 games this year. So that's kind of hard when you're a goaltender in front of you and you got all that changing. I'll give him a call back. Oh man, I feel like this question always pops up like every 3 or 4 shows, based on their last like week of results. It's probably, I think, the most asked question we get for good reason, right? You know, especially of how last year went. I don't think my stance has changed too much. I think they've kind of performed up to my expectations this year, so I think they can make the playoffs. But if they do, it's likely either as the third Pacific Division team because the other teams just don't play up to par this year, or it's a wild card team. And I think the Pacific there might even be a chance the Pacific doesn't get a wild card team because of how good the Central Division teams are, like Colorado and Nashville and St. Louis, and even Dallas might turn it around eventually as well, right? So if they do get in, it's either the last Pacific spot or a wild card. I can't see them finishing much higher than that. My favorite player in on the Ducks? Well, okay, so my favorite player before he left was Corey Perry. That I think that was I kind of widely put that across throughout last year that Corey Perry is my favorite player. But when it comes to outside the Ducks, if you've been following this show since the very beginning, before Thomas Tatar moved from Detroit to Vegas to Montreal, Thomas Tatar has always been one of my favorite players. I still wish one day the Ducks could bring him in. Man, I would love to see him playing with Ryan Getzlaf right now, especially the way Tatar's been playing the last couple of seasons since going to Montreal. But Tatar is up there as one of my favorite players in the league. Yeah. Yeah, that's usually what he finishes. I mean, I would love, if he hits that, it's that puts him like top 20 in the league in goals by a defenseman. I was surprised when you looked at last year. I think he had 13 last year, right? So
yeah,
that put him pretty high up there. Jason's made his way back to the show.
Jesus Christ!
Welcome back, sir.
All of a sudden, they said no internet. And I'm like, really? Like, I tried to call you guys on my phone, and like the phone was working. I have no idea. I'm also internet and technology inept. So.
Oh, you only missed a couple of questions, so we won't go back and rehash them.
Whatever, move it over. Gibson's doing fine. That's the last I heard. He's fine. Perfect. He'll be okay. He'll move on. You're gonna have these problems. Yada yada yada.
Okay, let's get to your game. You came back just in time for your game. We're at the hour mark.
We stalled for you. We held the questions out, so you're right in time.
Hold on, let me find my notes on my paper. Okay.
Jason is the game master, so.
All right. So this game I thought was going to be pretty awesome because it's a little telling. It just your initial thoughts without you having pre-notions or well thought out ideas of your answer. This usually tells a person or other people how you feel as a person. So I'm going to do a little game called word association. Now, all these words are going to relate to the Ducks in some way. Your job is to give me, it doesn't have to be one word, but pretty close to a one-word answer. I give a name, you give me an answer. Or all just right. How you feel about
Are we taking
word. Turns
with this, or are we trying to, do we hit a buzzer? Do we have to hit the top of our mic?
Literally, I will just say a name, and you will just give out your answer.
All right, let's go.
Okay, both of you will do it, and then I'll read you both and then give you mine, okay? All right, so the very first one, Korea.
Best player for me growing up. Not the best player in Ducks.
Best player. All right, so best player. Ed? I didn't hear you.
Favorite player is what I should have said.
Yeah.
Favorite player.
The first words that come to my mind?
Yeah. Whatever hits you the second you hear name.
First thing that came to my mind is number 9. That's just... It's boring.
Number 9. So, well, synonymous with Korea, especially the Ducks. And then, Pat, yours was best player. right?
I would just say it's favorite player. I would take back best player, favorite player.
Okay, well, mine was, when I did this to myself, was Idol. Like, he's the one that just kind of made hockey for me. If it wasn't for him, it'd be really hard for me to ever, A, pick number 9, B, really get that into hockey.
Isn't Timu like a favorite of yours over him?
No, I would say Korea was more instrumental in me getting into hockey. I mean, I never had number 8. It was always number 9 whenever I played hockey. If I got to pick a number, it was going to be number 9. I liked his way. I liked Teemu Selanne's personality better. So in that respect, I kind of like both of them. But, I mean, if you look at just the hockey player that made me want to play hockey, it was Korea.
Gotcha.
All right. So these are all going to be Duck related, just so everyone knows. All right, so real quick, just blurt it out. Doesn't matter if you do it at the exact same time. As quick as you can. Grimson.
Grim Reaper.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say Reaper.
Yeah.
The Reaper.
I said Nightmares.
He had somebody interviewed him in The Athletic in an article recently.
Yeah.
He's got
have
a
that
book
listed.
out. Yeah.
Yeah. He recently married within the last year. He does, I think, not play-by-play, he's color commentary for the Nashville Predators. But he's also, if you ever want to see him, he's quite often on NHL Network, NHL Now, which happens like 1 hour time.
Does a good job there too.
He does very good. I was very impressed with him and his insight to it. So, yeah, I was just thinking, like, from the Ducks' age, it's just like, see Grimson, I go, oh God, nightmares. Like, he's gonna haunt people. All right.
Favorite game? Anyone wants to look up a really good game from the Grim Reaper? It's him versus Vandenbush.
Vandenbush, that was it. Vandenbush.
Yep.
Oh,
Stu
they
Grimson
fought 3 times, and when you fight 3 times, some people don't know this. You fight 3 times in a game, you're automatically kicked out. So
Grimson fought him twice in that game. He fought someone else.
So he got kicked out. But the last time he fought Vandenbush, he beat the ever-living hell out of him.
I think he took his face off.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, Grimson's jersey was covered in blood, and you thought, oh, poor Grimson, he really lost. It was all the other dude's blood. All right, so another name, Selanne.
Oh, man.
First word pops in your mind. Selanne. Go.
First word that came to...
First word.
Yeah, first one for me, because literally the last thing I saw in Selanne was his burger place. So first word that came to mind was burger.
Place.
No, he has a burger place now.
It's a steak place.
He has a burger place too called the Penalty
Box.
Box.
It just happened. Oh, is that a burger? I thought it was Selanne Steakhouse number 2.
No, it's called the Penalty Box. He does like gourmet burgers.
That's weird. Someone says Selanne, and my first thing was smile.
My first thing is for me was cool. I think he's the coolest. He's the coolest NHL player I've ever met.
Yeah,
coolest guy I've ever met. He was nice to me when I was hammered at a game and took a picture with me. And he clearly was like, "Are you kidding me, dude?" Like clearly looking at me, he's like, "All right, man, I'm gonna be nice to you because you're obviously a fan." And then the other time, I think I might have told the story either on Puck Guys or one of our shows, but. I took my brother to get everything signed, and the security guy's like, "You can only get something signed or a picture." And it's fine. He's like, "Nah, he can have both." And let my brother come back and took a picture with him, and then went and signed the picture also. So it was kind of cool.
Yeah,
cool dude.
And that's by all accounts. I mean, story after story, he just kills it. So, all right, this one's gonna be a fun one. Randy.
Oh,
idiot.
That's it right there. Ugh.
All right, so fast. We got idiot on the other one. I said frustration.
You know what some people might say?
Frustrated he's around.
Norris.
Yeah, some people might have said that.
Or they might say, Stanley Cup, dude.
Yeah,
Stanley Cup.
Randy Carlyle and Bob Murray. Are those the two people who are... Randy says Norris and Bob Murray says Stanley Cup.
All right, so after Randy is Perry.
Oh. Perry?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, don't think, just do.
I said legend, man. He's a legend. He's a legend.
Dirty. We got legend and dirty. That is like opposite ends of that spectrum.
And I love Perry, but think of him, I'm like, oh, he's dirty.
Yeah.
The one that came to my mind second was Clutch. That was it.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Very clutch.
Mine was Getzlaf, mostly because of the Twins. Yeah,
so you guys
exactly.
The play by Perry when the period was winding down. I think the game was tied against Vancouver, and he scored a goal with under a second left off a feed from Getzlaf. He walked into the zone and just ripped it 5-hole, probably on Markstrom. I don't remember who was in net. at that time for Vancouver. But I remember that game I remember watching that and freaking out at my house. Like, are you kidding me? The guy, and then Getzlaf beats Perry. We're gonna go to, oh my God, he scored! Like, they were gonna talk about going to overtime.
And this is how it's gonna end. Yeah, my favorite Perry moment is literally him taking it against Ottawa and then just blasting it from the slot area just over Emery's in the cup final. Like, that's probably my biggest one, other than him just his antics where he's talking to either Datsuk or he's effing with Alexander Semin. He took his stick and like threw it, like he skated by to get Jeff Carter. So I wanted to say like agitator, but I just feel that's more of like a downgrade of what he actually did. So, but anyways, my whole thing was just Perry. My first thing I think it was like Perry, Getzlaf, like the twins. Like
dirty.
It was
he scores dirty goals. He's got dirty hands, and he's a dirty player. He's all three. All three of the dirties.
The last great moment we had from Corey Perry was that goal against Edmonton in the playoffs.
Come back on Catella.
Yeah, that was it. And then from there, it kind of went downhill. But not a bad last great memory to end on before everything kind of went down. Before your career kind of went downhill.
We kind of knew where it was heading after that.
Yeah.
All right. So another Ducks player name. First, quick, just shoot it out as you think of it. Niedermeyer.
Skating.
I was going to say
incredible
legend again, but I just said legend.
I just think it was skating.
Yeah, he's just. I just think like icon, just like captain, face of the franchise at one point, and still sticking around with the team after being a part of it on the coaching side, and the development side. That guy is just unbelievable.
Mine was, and once again, when you kind of just when you think really quick and you just answer and you just write it down and you say it out loud, you look back and you go, I could get with something better. But my initial thing was that I said to myself, Niedermeyer. First thing I thought of, Alfredson.
Yeah.
It was Alfredson taking a slap shot right to him in between the second period and that Ottawa series where we ended up winning the cup. And he did it, and literally he could have lost his mind. He could have like overplayed it where he got hurt, and it was just a rallying part. And he just did it, looked at the dude and said, "You gotta be kidding me!" And then goes in the locker room, tells everyone, "Do not get retribution. Win this game. Let's win the cup." And you can call that leadership or whatever you want, but I just remember Alfredson taking a second to look up and decided, I'm going to shoot it at that dude. And the dude just went boom, like,
and then
there's a giant ass under this. There's a Superman thing. You're not breaking this. So anyways, when I think Niedermeyer, I just think that Alfredson shot. Okay. Getzlaf.
Captain.
Yeah. I was going to say captain, but you said it before me.
Well, you can say captain. If that's your thing.
Leader, captain.
I think he's just a beast. I would think beast. The guy in his prime, beast is just the perfect description for him. He might be the greatest Duck of all time. Honestly, he's going to go down as probably the greatest Duck of all time. For sure.
I think he has to. I mean, when you look at what he's going to accomplish, what he's already accomplished, most games played in Ducks history, first player to hit 1,000 games in franchise history, will likely, or I guess he already is, right, leading the Ducks in points over, and he'll lead in assists. Probably, I don't know if he'll touch goals. I don't think he will, right? Because
he won't.
Timo is way up there, but he'll lead in pretty much
never left
every
the Ducks
category. Yeah. If he never leaves, never left, and captaining them for so long, winning a Stanley Cup, like he'll have to go down as the best Duck ever, and it's for longevity reasons, right? So
no, not just longevity. I think when you look at wingers are amazing, right? Like Korean Slonny, it's hard to come by that sort of chemistry. In their prime, they were lighting it up on this team together. They went elsewhere, it didn't do so great. Right? Which you can't hold against them either. Talk about their time in Anaheim. But, I mean, wingers don't have the responsibility, the defensive responsibility, as a center does. And I think Getzlaf, he's required to play on both ends of the ice. And I think he was a very underappreciated and undervalued center in this league because he plays in Anaheim. Say what you want about, people saying that's overplayed. I mean, it really is. If he played anywhere else, he's going to get the spotlight. And he would be honored as it talked about all the time during his prime. I mean, he was the reason why the Ducks made it past the Oilers, right? You remember that series before they went to the conference final?
And he's still getting it done. Like at this age, he's still getting and I wasn't saying that to slight Getzlaf. I'm just saying when you look at pure skill level and rating guys in all time and how great they are compared to players in history, I don't think you can say he was a better player than Teemu Selanne. When you're looking at some of the best players in history, that's not to say he's a bad player. Teemu Selanne is one of the best players to ever play the game. And in that sense, I was saying, as for longevity reasons for Ryan Getzlaf being here longer, I think, let's say if it was Ryan Getzlaf instead of Corey Perry who had left, then there would be the argument to be made there, who was the best player. I think you could make that argument between Teemu Selanne and Paul Kariya and Ryan Getzlaf. But Ryan Getzlaf is going to be here, you would assume, until at least his contract's
he's here
up
forever. He's going to sign again. He doesn't want to play into his mid-40s.
Number one.
We know he doesn't. He's 34 now. He owns this team, right? He's captain for 10 years. This is his team, and he's really proven to be a great player and a great leader.
Jason's laughing it up over
He's
there.
a beast. We're giving him all the love in the world.
There.
We're like gushing over
No,
Getzlaf.
that's fine. And you guys have said everything I would have ever wanted to say about Getzlaf. My first thought, the second I said to myself, Getzlaf, it's Snot Rocket.
Yeah.
You guys are just
being all serious over here.
Admiration forever, and you guys are just laying out the groundwork. A Hall of Famer, great. He's like everyone. I got Snot Rocket, guys.
Hey, there's this really cool booger thing. Have you seen it?
It's a double barrel. I mean, it's impressive as hell. I can't get around how great he is at the Snot Rocket. If I ever get that opportunity to actually interview him, I will ask him, how is he so good at it? It just blows me away he can do it. So anyways, but yeah, what you guys just said was good too. And very last one, I should have really ended on Getzlaf with all that love because this last one's really gonna fucking make you guys annoyed. Bob Murray.
Bargain.
Bargain.
Yeah.
Bargain.
Man, I was gonna say underappreciated, but that I guess
no one
so.
appreciates
that was the first one that came to me because a lot of
That's
the
not
comments
bad.
recently
That's
with
not
the
a bad
Ducks
thing to
being-
say.
Yeah,
You want to know what I said?
he's what?
Good-ish.
Yeah,
Good-ish.
Good-ish.
Yeah. And I guess that's on the same wavelength as my. answer,
He's
but
not
it's-
He's not that bad.
Well, it's a small market
not that
team.
bad.
He got this team, and they were in the conference finals. It seemed like for 5 straight years, right?
In the
I know
playoffs
they weren't.
always.
They were in the playoffs all the time. They were competitive every single year in this division. He's able to work things out even by bringing in bottom barrel guys.
Yeah.
So
He's made some idiotic decisions, but every GM makes idiotic decisions.
Well, he is.
And I'm not trying to say because he's underappreciated that means he's the best GM in the league. No, he's not. But he's not the worst GM in the league, and I think he's in the top half of the league.
So top 15.
Top 15. I think he's in top 15.
Would you say top 10?
he was top 10. He fell off a couple seasons ago. Yes.
There's been some decisions that I think that you maybe could say have taken one of the top 10, but there's so much.
That would be another good one. Who's ahead of him? Who are
Well,
your top
you'd have
10
to also
GMs?
think of there's been a lot of turnover on GMs, right? And then you have to take into account some of the newer GMs who are looking pretty good right now. Like, can you put Kyle Dubas over Bob Murray? Kyle Dubas really hasn't done anything wrong, but he also hasn't been around that long either. So and maybe the same can go for Steve Yzerman because he hasn't been around as long. I think you could still put Steve Yzerman as one of the best GMs in the league.
Yep.
But that argument can be put out there because he hasn't been around as long. So maybe when he's in the league as long as Bob Murray is, he makes some of the same mistakes. Pat already just said he gave Val Taylor-Filppula a no trade clause. That can be right up there with him giving BXN no trade clause. Like, it's the same type of decision.
But you have
Maybe
to
not
remember
as
too, with some of these
detrimental,
decisions is you bring in players for the room, and that is a thing, and that's fine. And you don't. Everyone, I know we always like to make fun of the the leadership, the grit, all that stuff. But there are guys that in the league that players will tell you they just love having that guy there. We love that guy.
And I can see
Brian
him
Boyle.
being one of those guys.
Bring him in. Yeah.
Yeah. And
100%.
I would still say he's top 15 in the league. I would really have to sit down and go and look at the other GMs to say if he
Good
would be
Patreon
top
show.
10.
Cracks
or
that
not.
top 10. Yeah, but lower top 10. All right,
But
well,
he's
good.
definitely being, people are saying he's one of the worst GMs in the league, and I think you can't say that.
It's mostly Ducks fans that are saying
Yeah,
that.
100%.
They don't know.
It's only Ducks fans.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was it. All right, that actually went a little bit better. I thought you guys were gonna say idiot, like just beyond stupid.
Nah,
Just
no
like
way.
can't handle him. This guy needs to go. Okay, all right. We're all on the same page.
Come on, Ed, neither of us can shut up half the time. So you
I
bring up.
thought armchair GM. I thought you guys would be like, oh, I could do a better job than that guy. That guy was screwing it up.
I can, but I won't say that. I don't have the time in my life to be a GM.
All right, so that was it. That was my
Let's get
word
to the
association.
shootout, brought to you by CoolHockey.com. This is where this segment of the show we talk about all the NHL news around the league. The top stories, not going to dive into every team, but if you guys haven't already, go to CoolHockey.com, buy yourself a jersey. Ed, our promo's working again, right? FM20 will get people 20% off their jerseys at CoolHockey.com.
Should be. I've been told it should be, but I haven't. I have also not checked it. So
Ed, go buy a jersey for me.
Yeah, if you can check it if it applies at checkout, then for sure. If not, let us know and we'll get that fixed. So I believe it is working again, but
yeah, we will stew grapes in their ass until it happens.
Yeah, we love Cool Hockey. Go check them out. They're legit jerseys. You can get them all customized with all the legitimate stuff that you would ever find anywhere else. They're a great place. They sponsor our Forever Mighty 3 Stars also, which you can find on Twitter 45 minutes before the game. Check us out on game days for that with your chance to win a jersey at the end of the month. Let's get to NHL news. Boys, did you guys know there was a game played in Sweden? 2 games played in Sweden today and yesterday. Did you guys hear about that?
I heard about it, but not until literally earlier this week. And the only reason I heard about that is because friend of the show, Phil, is a Tampa Bay Lightning fan. And he was looking at making like game day graphics, and I was looking at the games, and I said, "Oh, that game's in Buffalo, right?" And he's like, "No." I'm like, "Dude, it says at Buffalo." And I thought I was like, "Yeah, I'm right here," and I'm like, "This guy's a Lightning fan," so he schooled me, and he's like, "No, it's in Sweden." And I was like, "Oh, all right." I didn't.
I
know
heard
they
about
did
it
this during
3
the
days
season, though.
Yeah. I actually knew it about like a week and a half ago, only because I had Victor Hedman on my fantasy team, and he was technically on the IR, he was out or whatever, and then I kept like trying to look like, well, when's he coming back? Like, he's hopefully going to be back to play in Sweden with his country. Other than that, didn't know about it until probably 2 days before. Like, I didn't see any advertisement for it. I just knew about it, and I was just waiting for it. Other than that, yeah, unless you were aware of your star defenseman who happened to be Swedish, which was Dahlin and Hedman. Other than that, you probably wouldn't have heard about it.
Very interesting the way the league approaches these things, right? I don't understand the marketing behind it, or the lack thereof. I really don't understand why that happens.
Well, but they don't have to market it here, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter.
That game's on at 11.
I think they do a good job in sense of marketing, of bringing players that country will want to see. So, in the sense of Hedman and Dahlin for Sweden.
It was Landeskog and
they were in there.
Did they have a Carlson in one for another Sweden one?
And next year it's Pasternak, and I think it's Nashville and Boston in the Czech Republic. So that makes sense for Pasternak.
No, it's I thought it was Columbus.
It might be. Yeah, they're in one of them, but Pasternak is in the Czech Republic one, so that makes sense. And then I believe there's one in Switzerland where Nashville plays. I think maybe the Devils. It's Hischer and Roman Josi. So they're in Switzerland. And there's 2 more, but the other ones are preseason. Once is Boston versus one of the teams in the DEL in Germany. So they play preseason. And then there's another preseason one that I think Nashville plays one of the teams in Switzerland. So there's 4 different countries. I believe it's the Czech Republic, Germany, Switzerland, and Finland. Finland was the other one. And it's Colorado for Rantanen, and I forget the second team. Actually, I think it was Colorado and Columbus for that one. So it was really Rantanen was the big name for that one. I think Columbus has the Finnish GM, and they have a couple Finnish players in their system too. So they do a good job in that sense of matching teams up. That would work there.
I wish they would just let everyone know ahead of time, like big time. Like it would have been tough to watch the one on Friday. It was going on in the middle of the day for us. But would have been nice to know the game was going on today. I might have tuned in out at my parents' house and put it on. I do. I would have liked to have watched it. Are you kidding me? I think it's cool to see how other countries' fans react.
If you just check the schedule, the game's on in the afternoon. I get what you're saying, though. I get what you're saying. They didn't really market it here that much that it was a global series game as much as they probably did there. They don't hype it.
You know why they won't? They don't want to give people any sort of hope that we're going to the Olympics, which is what I want to get to next. what Gary
So
said.
that was really a thought I had to really quick before you segue to that. I was like, I wonder if they're making this happen as their own thing to like make the players who really are objecting to it like, oh, Ovechkin really hates that he's not in the Olympics. Let's make Washington play in Russia in one of the global series or something like that. That won't happen in Russia. Russia won't.
For the global series. That is never happening.
So
but like all the other
China
ones.
first.
Yeah, which is what's going to happen for sure. But
all those
one of my
Chinese people that play hockey. In the NHL.
So here's what Bettman said. I know the players love representing their countries. I know that the players like going. I know that the players that don't go like having a break in the middle of the season. But from our standpoint, we found that going to the Olympics to be incredibly disruptive to our season. So
He's not wrong.
No movement. Nothing's happening unless the NHL starts making a ton of money off the Olympics from the Ice Hockey Federation. Then they're not going to go. It's a money game, and the Ice Hockey Federation and the Olympics, they're not going to pay them, right? I mean, NBC owns all that coverage, right? The Olympics do. You can't watch any highlights on NHL.com at all from the Olympics. You're not allowed to broadcast them.
100%. So 100%. So at this point, it's literally just will the NHL get paid to send their players, and if they
don't
won't,
give a shit about the break. They give a
nobody's
shit
gonna
about the
pay them.
money.
no one cares that there's a big break, but they're going to say they do because it really interrupts our season every 4 years. We get really ornery about that whole thing. No, it's like, hey, you didn't give us money. Well, we're going to use this reason, that reason, that reason. If you give us money, that reason doesn't seem so bad anymore.
This is the problem I have with it, is because the NHL is contradicting themselves, saying they want to globalize the sport and get it out there. And you look at the league that's probably done that the best is the NBA, and basketball has now become the second most popular sport in the world behind soccer because the NBA has done such a good job in getting the sport out there and having global events like this, and having the players go to the Summer Olympics and having all their best players go to the Summer Olympics and not caring about that, because then you get to see all the best players in the world stage. And like literally 90% of the best players are all from the US, but you still get some of the best talent from other countries out there, so you get good games. And yet Gary Bettman says, hey, let's have a global series where we can show off our game worldwide, but we're not going to send these guys to the Olympics and have them show off our best talent on the world stage. Like, that's contradicting yourself. Why not send these guys to the Olympic if your goal is to have hockey and the NHL become a more global sport and league? Like, stick to your guns if you're going to pick one side of the argument.
Real quick question to both of you, because I felt like I had to fight you guys on this last time we had this discussion about it being a Winter Olympics. I think specifically Ed, I can't quite remember if Pat was with you on this one, where you said, listen, it's an amateur sport. It's not supposed to be the professional athletes in the Winter Olympics. My theory at that time was it should be the best athletes in the world competing. Are you saying that the NHL
I've
players...
always been pro-Olympics.
Okay, so
I still stand by the sentiment, the arguments I had back then. And I listen, Gary Bettman's not wrong when he says it interferes with their schedule. I'm not saying it's a good argument.
Year.
He isn't, but no, he isn't wrong in the sense they have to shut down.
Okay, yeah,
their
but they
schedule
do
for
the
2 weeks.
World Cup of Hockey before preseason. That doesn't disrupt players.
I'm not saying that's a good argument. I'm just
But they
saying
make
he's
money off
not
it.
wrong. He's not wrong in that sense that it does disrupt the NHL schedule.
Yes,
the one
physically
thing I
there are no games happening.
Yeah, the one thing I remember
weeks.
being pretty adamant about was players whining about it. Shouldn't whine about it when they have contracts and they have agreements with NHL teams. Listen, you're contracted to play for an NHL team. If the NHL says you can't go, you can't go. So don't.
Well, what if they work? Well, that's the NHL. If they sign it with a team, it's up to the team's discretion whether or not those players can go. But now the NHL steps in and says no NHL players.
It's the old boys club. You can't do that.
The teams play under the league, and the league ultimately handles the team's business when it comes to sending players.
You remember that?
They go.
You remember that when the Washington GM said, we don't care if the OB goes. You should go. But what he was doing there was playing good cop, bad cop, right?
Yeah,
I said he could go, but
I felt like I was fighting to get the players to go into the Olympics when I was talking to you guys. I know specifically Ed was just saying it should be an amateur thing, and it disrupts it. So, I mean, I get it, but at the same time, I just feel like if a team ends up having to go to Europe and play 2 games, they're gone from their home.
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't make
anyways.
sense. It doesn't
like
make sense if you're Gary Bettman.
Back.
If you're Gary Bettman and you're willing to do that, and you're saying you want to grow the game globally, then why are you not sending players to the Olympics? That's what I don't get. If you're going to stick to your guns and say you're not going to the Olympics, don't do a global series and pitch the whole thing behind the global series as we're trying to grow the game globally.
Mm-hmm.
Then send your players to the Olympics then. Like and like Pat said, it all comes down to money, because they can make money off the global series, they can't make money off the Olympics. So if you're gonna do, just say it's because you don't make money off of it. We all know that's the reason. We all know that's the reason they're not going to the NHL.
But that's so shallow.
And he dances around it by saying it interrupts our season. Yeah, it interrupts your season because you interrupt the amount of money you could make by not.
You can come up with a million reasons why not to do it.
If they could brand the players for the Olympics and then have Olympic coverage, streaming stuff on their website, if they were able to show Olympic stuff on NHL.com or NHL, oh my God, I can't think of it. NHL Tonight or NHL Network, any of that stuff. If they were able to show any of those games or do anything like that, which NBC would never give up those broadcast rights, it's not happening. But if they were to be able to pull anything from the Olympics and make some money, it would probably make the owners be like, yeah, I'm okay with it. Yeah,
I wonder
this whole injury thing, disrupt the season thing.
I don't follow basketball enough to know if the NBA does that. I'd be interested to see if when the Summer Olympic goes on for basketball, if the NBA is allowed to broadcast any of those games on NBA on TNT or NBA's version of the NBA or the NHL Network. I'm interested to see if they are able to pull any of that to Olympic coverage or not, or if that's just an IOC thing where you can't, they choose who their broadcasting partners are.
Yeah, I think NHL TV and NBA TV or NFL TV is very similar. It's just games that are happening here, and you start going to Olympics, it becomes a national broadcast.
Well, it's the IOC who controls the broadcast rights. So if the IOC says, "Hey, NBC and CBC here, and whoever, you have the broadcast rights," then that's it. And I think the NHL, if they wanted it, they'd probably have to pay for it. They'd probably have to say, if you want to broadcast it on NHL.TV, you have to pay us to get it. And NHL's not going to spend more money when they already don't want players to go because of money. So that's it's not going to happen.
No, they can't even figure out their player tracking stuff and able to pay for that correctly, right? And they can't even get shot locations correct, for analytics sites. So the NHL's I don't know, can't trust them. Let's end the show on a positive note. Disney Plus, I don't know if you guys are going to get it in your household, but we signed up to get it for sure because a lot of awesome programming.
I've got 2 young kids. It's going to happen. And
we're getting Disney. $6 a month, can't beat it. Incredible movie selection. The Mandalorian, which I'm excited for. Star Wars.
Marvel.
The Mighty Ducks reboot series. Did you guys hear about that? I don't know if you guys heard.
I don't know anything about it, but I heard they're rebooting it. So is Emilio Estevez going to be in it?
They're not they're not rebooting the movie.
About Charlie Sheen, his brother.
Turning it into a series based on the movies, and it's reportedly about a 13-year-old boy who gets cut from a junior division Mighty Ducks team, and then the boy and his mom start their own team by finding players, a coach, and somewhere else to play. Is that watchable for you or no?
I'm out.
You're gonna watch it. I know you're going to.
I'm imagining this as like a Hallmark type
it's not
thing.
Made for us, right?
Yeah. I think it's like Hallmark made, and hey, you got along the same lines of like High School Musical, another Disney thing where it's just like 13-year-old kid and his mom, fight the odds, and somehow they make it work. That sounds horrible.
I don't even get Disney Plus until it comes. It goes to the U.S. first, and I don't even get it until I don't even know when it comes to Canada. So I'm indifferent on it until I can actually see.
You're not invited.
Are you excited about the show, Ed, or no?
No.
You want to come over? We'll watch it over here.
I'll watch it, but I'm not excited for it.
Yeah. I'm a hard out. I think.
I'll give it I'll get the.
I'll give it its first 5 minutes. If it doesn't,
I'll give it a go. I'll give it a go.
I'll give it the first 3 episodes and see what it's.
I'll give it 5.
I'm more excited for Mandalorian and the other movie selection. All right. Well, that's it for the show. You guys, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for coming in on to Twitch and listening to us live. You know where to find us all over social media. Go to our website, forevermighty.com. And you know what? We'll be back next Wednesday coming up. And roughly around the same time, right? Like 7:30 p.m. Pacific time is what we're looking at, or maybe so right around then. And we'll